everybody, and welcome to Runcl's YouTube page. My name is Barbara Harris. I go by Bass and Gal on social media, and today I wanted to go over the Neko Rig. I had actually done a quick little series on Runcl's TikTok page, and the Neko Rig is what I had caught my fish on that day. And I had done a poll on if people used that rig, and to my surprise, a lot of people said that they didn't use it, and so they had asked me to do a video on it. So I chose to go ahead and do the video on the YouTube page instead of the TikTok page, because you don't get very long on the TikTok, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about it and then actually show you guys how to put it together. So we're going from the summer, really hot weather or hot water, to the fall transition and the cooling of the water. And if you're new to bass fishing, the important thing to know about that is that as the water cools, the bass are going to start transitioning and following the bait to the backs of the creeks. So in the summer, a lot of times they pull out to the main lakes, out to the deeper water, the main body of the lake, and kind of pull out of the creeks for the most part. That's where the majority of the fish go, is to the main body. And they kind of hover, by creek channels, creek swings, main lake pockets, main lake, ledges. If you're in kind of like a ledge lake, Kentucky Lake is super famous for that. They will get on points and stuff like that. But as the water cools down, a lot of the bait fish will start going to the backs of the creeks to spawn. And as they do that, the bass just follow them back there, because they're going to start feeding heavily for the winter. And as they do that, they're preparing to start feeding a lot less for the winter time. And the fall fishing can be phenomenal, but it can also be tough, because the bass are focused on those little bait fish, and sometimes it's hard to trick them because they're so honed in on that specific little thing. And sometimes, the Neko Rig is a really good bait to throw because it's small. But if we weren't in the fall transition, the Neko Rig in the summer is a great bait. So before I get into the here and now, and we will revisit this again next summer to go more in detail about it, but we're kind of out of this for it to be applicable. It might be applicable for another couple of weeks, or for those of you that are in the southern states. But the Neko Rig is at its best when you can fish it, on the points, on the ledges, and, even bluff walls, or, because you're going to be kind of hopping it. What it is it's actually a combination of a wacky rig and a shaky head. And that might be hard to envision, but it's going to make total sense when I put the rig together and you see it. But what it is you're going to rig it just like you would a wacky rig. And then you're going to put a nail weight in the head of it. So what you're going to see is when you start bouncing it, the line is going to pull on the hook, and it's going to make it, kind of shimmy like it would if you had it wacky rigged. But as it falls, it's going to fall pointing down with that weight. And then when it's sitting down there, you know, it's going to kind of stand up again. And then when you shimmy it, you know, it goes wacky rig again, and then it's going to shoot down like a shaky head. So it's a really good combination of the two. It is great for finicky fish. I had, when I was learning to fish it, I had watched a video by Kevin Van Dam, and he said that he really likes it as a follow-up bait. So if a fish, you know, blew up and missed his bait or something, a lot of people go in with a Cinco. He said he kind of likes to go back in now with a Neko Rig because it's kind of newer. A lot of fish haven't seen it, you know, like they have a Cinco and stuff similar to that. So I was introduced to the Neko Rig fishing with the Lady Bass Anglers Association. I had heard of it at a seminar from Brandon Polinick, which he loves the Neko Rig. And I had watched a seminar with him, and I had kind of messed around with it. I wasn't good at it. I forgot about it. And then I went to a tournament with the Lady Bass Anglers Association, the LBAA, and I was practicing with another angler, and I was like, oh, okay, I really need to learn this rig, because like in tough fishing, I'm talking like I can't get a bite type fishing. It was a very wow moment for me, about us needing to, once we're comfortable with, you know, comfortable and confident with other rigs, we really need to start learning those other ones that we're not so comfortable with. So this year for me, it was the Neko Rig. And I haven't fished many tournaments this year. I actually fished the two with the LBAA, and then for medical reasons, I was kind of put on hold. So I've been fishing ponds, and I've been fishing very pressured public park ponds, pressured public park ponds. I mean, that's a tongue twister. And so those fish were always finicky. Even when they should be feeding hard, they're finicky. And by far, the Neko Rig was definitely a star for
mixing up a shaky head and a wacky rig.
Comment what your third bait would have been. Are you surprised it was bait number?
Neko Rig for the win.
this year. And so always keep that in the back of your mind, that this rig is always good for finicky fish. It's good for when, you know, if you're fishing on a spot where you know the fish are there, if you see them on the electronics or you're catching them, we'll say on a crankbait, and all of a sudden they stop biting, but you know they're still there. A Neko Rig's a good bait to throw out there. Sometimes you can still, you know, pull one out or get them fired up again, but the nail weight that you use, the good thing about it is that you can put a nail weight on there, you know, kind of like a shaky head or the Ned Rig or whatever, and you can change the weight of the nail head to match whatever depth you are. I mean, you can get a really, really small one if you're kind of fishing shallow, or a really heavy one if you're out in 30 feet. So you can adjust that for the nail weight. So just kind of remember that finicky fish, it's great. Deep, out on points, ledges, stuff like that, it's great. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to say, especially in regards to like the Neko Rig, shaky head, and the wacky rig is that there's kind of three different bites from a bass. There's a convenience bite, which is like, you know, he's just kind of sitting there maybe by a log or a stump, and the wacky rig just kind of comes down, and it's like, it gets here, and he's just like, all right, there it is, and he eats it. And then there is the feeding bite, where they're out, they're hungry, they're looking, and whatever they find that's edible, they're going to eat. And then there's the reaction bite, which is they just react because that's their instinct, you know, whether it's bounces off of something by them and they just grab it before they even realize what they did. And the Neko rig fits all three of those because you can fish it slow, you can hop it in front of them, so that is a good convenience one, that it's just right in front of their face. And the other one is that, you know, worms and stuff like that is one of the best baits that you can throw. Worms have been used since fishing has been around, so they like it, they'll eat it. And the other one is a reaction one. When you pop it off of the ground or off of the bottom or deflect it off of something, and you know it moves real fast, and then it flutters, you know, because the nail weight makes it go back down real fast. And a lot of times that bite will come on the fall. So when you pull it up and then it goes back down to the nail weight with the nail weight, a lot of times they'll bite it then. So it also fits that. And so you have a lot of opportunities with those three different ways. So just keep that in mind. And, you know, right now, as we're transitioning to the fall, just remember this, that remember this, that the fish are going to go back in stages. And they're not all going to go at the same time. But as they're moving their way back, they'll have points that they stop at. They'll have points that they actually stop at. They'll have maybe channel swings that they stop at. They'll have sometimes you can find them in pockets, and you know they will find ways to kind of, if they're on a ball of bait, they can find like a way to kind of congregate them together, and you'll see them blow up. You'll be able to see the balls of bait on your electronics if you have electronics. But they'll have these different places as they move back where they'll probably hang out for a little bit. And if you can find those places, you'll probably be able to catch some fish, because their purpose of stopping in those places is to feed. And they're going to do that as they make their way back to the backs of the creeks. And, you know, so the more that it cools down, the further back in the creek they're going to get. But just remember, they're not all going to go at the same time. They're going to kind of go in. They're going to reload in those places. So keep that in mind. And there's multiple ways to catch them in the fall. You know, when I'm fishing the Neko rig, if they're feeding on shad actively, you can always fish. Like I use the 4-inch Runcl Pro Bite Cinco style. You get 15 in a pack. They're really durable. So that's what I use, and I like it in the white color when I'm fishing for the schooling fish and the fish that are all bunched up together when they're chasing the shad, because the white looks like the closest of a shad. But you can also throw top water. You can throw crankbaits, spinner baits, underspins. There's a lot of different things that you can throw at them, but if they're not reacting to those types of baits, even just a plain old wacky, wacky style Senko, that works a lot of times too. But if none of those are working, the Neko Rig is definitely the way to go and to try, and just make those stops on the ways to the back of the creek. And like I said, right now, I mean, the water temperatures in Kentucky are still in the 80s. They're starting to cool down pretty quick because we're having cool nights, but we've still had days that have been, close to 90 degrees. So they're not really dropping and staying down. But depending on where you are, you might be kind of ahead of us, you might be behind us, but just keep an eye on that. And if you're somebody who doesn't have a boat and you're kind of wanting to take advantage of this fall transition, if you can find a place on a lake that you can get down to, like maybe like a bridge piling or something like that. I know a lot of lakes will have, like a highway that goes over, but they'll have places where you can park to the side. And if you can do that and walk down and fish kind of at the bridge piling, that is usually a really good place that reloads constantly. Even in the summer, the fall, the winter, there's almost always fish on bridge pilings. Um, but especially when you know that they're constantly working their way back to the creeks. So if you can find something like that where you could stay there and just keep trying multiple baits, then you probably could have some success that way. Um, and just try something like that, or go to a pond. Like I'm telling you, that where I live, the ponds that I fish, they are so pressured, and like it is really, really tough to catch fish in them. But if you stick with it, you will catch them. You will eventually catch them. It's not easy. You have to keep changing your baits, changing your techniques, but you will catch them. Um, and, one thing that really stood out to me in the weigh-in for the Lady Bass Anglers Association Championship, they were just on Logan Martin in Alabama. This was just a couple of days ago, 2 days ago. And one of the anglers, she had watermelon red Senko, and she was fishing it shaky head and wacky rig, and same bait. When they were taking it wacky rig, they wouldn't take it shaky head, and when they would take it shaky head, they wouldn't take it wacky rig. And that stood out to me because it just says that how much you have to pay attention to the fish. We can't always fish the way that we want. I like fishing a Texas rig, but I can't force feed it to them. So when they won't take the Texas rig, I have to be comfortable, trying a drop shot, trying the shaky head, the Neko rig, the wacky rig, the Ned rig. Like it's not always the bait. The bait is wrong. Sometimes it's the technique. So we really need to be trying other things. It really can improve or increase the amount of fish that we catch. So anyway, that's kind of the spiel I've got on the Neko rig. It is extremely versatile, and you can fish it deep, you can fish it shallow, you can fish it when the fish are biting, you can fish it when they're super finicky in the fall, the summer, the winter, because when it's in the winter time, you can fish it super slow. And I'm of the opinion that in the winter time, I don't think that the fish are, I don't think that they're moving very much. And so I think that convenience bite, you know, where it just goes right by their face and they eat it. I think that's what they're waiting for. I know some people think that reaction is the way to go. But for me, I would throw something like a Ned rig or a Neko rig for winter fishing. I don't winter fish. I'm under the heated blanket in the winter. Alrighty, let's go ahead and put a Neko rig together. So, first thing you're going to need is a Neko rig tool or a wacky rig tool. I always keep mine here in my case with my Runcl pliers. These are amazing pliers. They cut through braided line like nothing. They have the O-ring tip on them for the split rings. So this is a really cheap one through Yumdinger, and it works perfect. No need to spend a lot of money. It's a really easy tool to use. But so before I even get my worm out, I go ahead and these are just little plastic rings, and actually, real quick, this is a Runcl utility tray. You can put crankbaits, hooks, weights, whatever you want. I have this one for my hooks and weights, and I keep these, little circle O-rings in here. Some people keep them in the bag and put them in various places. Mine go in here. And if you haven't seen the video that I did on this on TikTok, I'll see if I can post it somewhere in this video or put a link, because I tested this for the claim of it being waterproof and floatable, and this is the one that I threw in the pond, and it floated and it stayed dry. So I highly recommend these, especially for kayak anglers. I'm nervous, but let's see if it floats.
Follow to see more gear, and don't forget to vote for the giveaway.
Okay, so it's in place. I just put it down there, and I go ahead and put the worm. You're just putting it in the tool like this. Okay, so it's lined up like this. We're just going to slide it right off of here onto the worm, like this. And you kind of want to even it out, like that. Okay, and this right here is my favorite kind of worm for my favorite kind of hook for the Neko rig. And I'll show you why when I get it on. But I actually like it for a wacky rig too. So it's just the weedless Neko rig. And here it is out of the box. The VMC weedless Neko. And hopefully, let me see. If you can see that, those are clear, but it helps to deflect the hook when you're, pulling it. Your line is pulling the hook this way. When this hits, rocks or wood or whatever, it's going to hit these, and hopefully most of the time it will deflect the hook so it doesn't get caught up. So you're going to put this right into like that. So you basically right here, this is your wacky rig. And there's all kinds of different sizes of weights. They make them in different colors. So make them shorter, longer. So this is a really small, thin worm. And so I've got wasn't good. My dog's out here. So this is a 1/16. And I just kind of screw it into the top. And then what it's going to do, now imagine this on your line, and we'll say this is the bottom. So your line's going to pull it, and it's going to come up like a wacky rig where it's flopping. You know, so then when you stop pulling it up, this is gonna go up like this, and it's gonna go fast down. You know, the water pressure is gonna hold that up a little bit, and then it kind of turns into a shaky head. And then when you pull it up, it's gonna go like that, and then straight down like that. So, you know, like I said, it really is kind of like combining a shaky head with a Neko rig. And I'm going to show you this up close. So whatever your color worm is, you know, you adjust you have the O-ring, whatever hook you like, and then you adjust the weight for whatever the depth is. I try to use the smallest weight that I can get away with. See, you can barely see, you know, just the edge of that. So that's the Neko rig. I hope it does something good for you and catches you more fish. Again, when they're feeding, when they're finicky, give it a shot. Let me know how it does for you.